The giant space station called Keras 9 floated in the darkness between stars. Today was special. Today was the day of the great tournament. Every year, alien species from across the galaxy came here to fight. Not to kill, but to prove who was strongest, who was fastest, who was the best warrior in all the known universe. Private Marcus Webb stood in the registration hall and felt very small. Around him, aliens towered like buildings. There were Vraxians with 4 arms and skin like metal. There were Keltharians whose bodies could survive fire. There were Hyprene who moved so fast they seemed to blur. All of them were warriors. All of them looked like they could break him in half. Webb was human. Just human. He was 5'9" inches tall. He weighed 170 pounds. He had 2 arms, 2 legs, and skin that bruised easily. Compared to everyone else in the room, he looked like a child. "Next," called the registration officer. Webb stepped forward. The crowd of alien warriors parted around him. Some looked curious. Others looked amused. One March Keltharian actually laughed out loud. At the front of the hall stood Colonel Thracican. The colonel was massive, 9 feet tall, with an exoskeleton that gleamed like polished stone. 4 powerful arms, each one thicker than Webb's entire body, a face covered in translucent plates that shifted colors with his emotions. Right now, those plates were rippling with purple and yellow, the Vraxian colors for amusement. "Name?" Colonel Thracican's voice was deep, like rolling thunder. "Private Marcus Webb, United Earth Defense Force." The colonel's faceplates rippled faster. The translation device on Webb's collar made a small beep. It was translating the colonel's expression into words. Contemptuous amusement. "A human," Thracican said loudly so everyone could hear. "How delightful." The other aliens in the hall started to whisper. Some laughed. Webb could hear their translators working. So small, like a pet. Why did they even send one? Colonel Thracican picked up a datapad and looked at Webb's physical assessment. His faceplates shifted through several colors. More amusement. Maybe even pity. "Private Webb," the colonel announced to the entire hall. "According to this data, you have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no biological weapons. Your reaction time is average. Your bone density is actually quite weak compared to most species here." He paused. Every alien in the hall was watching now. "Tell me, human, why are you here? This tournament is for warriors. Real warriors. You are just flesh and water, soft, fragile." The colonel's faceplates flashed bright yellow. Adorable, truly, but not a warrior. Laughter echoed through the hall. Not mean laughter, exactly. It was the kind of laughter you make when you see something cute trying to do something impossible. Like a kitten trying to fight a tiger. Webb said nothing. His face showed no emotion. He just stood there, waiting. "Nothing to say?" Thracican asked. "No defense of your species? No anger?" "No, sir," Webb replied simply. The colonel seemed disappointed by this. He liked it when warriors showed spirit, got angry, challenged him. This human just stood there like a stone. "Very well," Thracican said. He pressed a few buttons on his datapad. "The tournament brackets are now assigned." "How interesting. It seems you are in my bracket, Private Webb." Some of the aliens muttered. That wasn't coincidence. The colonel had put the human in his own bracket on purpose. "I look forward to our match," Thracican said. His faceplates were now bright, cheerful yellow. "It will be very brief, I think. Very educational. You will learn what real combat looks like. Then you can go home and tell your people about the warriors of the greater galaxy." More laughter from the crowd. Webb nodded once. "Thank you, sir." Then he turned and walked away. As he walked past the other fighters, they moved aside. Some looked at him with pity. Others with curiosity. One of them, a reptilian Skardok warrior with scales like knives, watched him very carefully. She leaned toward her companion, another Scarth. "Did you see his eyes?" she whispered. "What about them?" "They remind me of the hunting beasts from our homeworld, the ones that wait in the tall grass. No fear in those eyes, no emotion at all. Just watching, calculating." Her companion looked again at the small human disappearing into the corridor. "He is just prey pretending to be a predator." The colonel will break him. Perhaps, the female Skadar said quietly. But on our world, we have a saying. The most dangerous hunter is the one who does not need to roar. In his private quarters, Colonel Thragisgon watched the registration footage again. He laughed at the small human, so weak, so fragile. It would be embarrassing, really, how quickly the match would end. But then he paused the video, zoomed in on the human's face. Those eyes, cold, empty, unafraid. Thraskin shook his massive head. No, he was overthinking this. The human was simply in shock, overwhelmed by the situation. Tomorrow, when the tournament began, reality would set in. The human would understand his mistake. The colonel turned off the video and went to sleep, dreaming of easy victory. In another part of the station, Private Marcus Webb sat alone in his room. On his data pad, he pulled up files, videos, information. He began to study. He studied Vraxian anatomy, their strengths, their weaknesses. He watched old tournament footage. He took notes, many notes. Webb didn't sleep that night. He had work to do. The first day of the tournament arrived. The main arena was huge. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, cheering and shouting. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing fighter statistics and match schedules. The energy in the room felt electric. Webb sat in the waiting area with the other fighters. Around him, aliens prepared in different ways. Some meditated, some practiced strikes against training dummies. Some roared and beat their chests to pump themselves up. Webb sat quietly and watched them all. "First match!" the announcer's voice boomed. "Caltharian fighter Drakthos versus human private Marcus Webb." The crowd made a sound between a cheer and a laugh. A human in the first match? This would be entertaining. Webb walked into the arena. The lights were blinding. The noise was deafening. Across from him, Drakthos entered from the opposite side. Drakthos was 7 feet tall, with red, scaly skin that could resist extreme heat. His muscles were thick, his claws sharp. He was a mid-level fighter, not the best, but definitely experienced. He looked at Webb and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Try not to die too quickly, little human," Drakthos said. "I want the crowd to have a good show." Webb said nothing. He just moved into his starting position. The referee, a neutral alien with 6 eyes, raised one hand. "Fight." Drakthos charged forward like a bull. It was a standard coalition fighting technique. Use superior strength and speed to overwhelm your opponent in the first few seconds. But Webb wasn't where Drakthos expected him to be. The human moved sideways at the last second, fast but not in a straight line. His movement was strange, unpredictable. He ducked low, lower than any coalition training manual would teach, and swept his leg out. Drakthos stumbled, surprised. No one fought like this. This wasn't proper technique. Before the Caltharian could recover, Webb was already moving again. He didn't go for the obvious targets, like the head or chest. Instead, he grabbed Drakthos's arm and twisted it at a weird angle, using his whole body weight as leverage. The Caltharian roared in pain and confusion. This wasn't how combat was supposed to work. This wasn't honorable technique. Webb didn't care about honor. He cared about winning. He moved like water, flowing around Drakthos's strikes, never where the Caltharian expected. When Drakthos punched, Webb was already gone. When Drakthos tried to grab him, Webb slipped away like smoke. Then Webb did something that shocked everyone watching. Drakthos landed a solid hit on Webb's shoulder. The crowd heard the impact. The human's face showed pain, but he didn't back away. Instead, he moved forward, into the pain, using the moment when Drakthos was recovering from his punch to get close. Too close for the Caltharian to properly fight. Webb's elbow struck Drakthos in the throat. Not hard enough to cause permanent damage, but hard enough to make breathing difficult. Then his knee came up into the Caltharian's midsection. Then another joint lock, this one on the arm, twisted in a way that Caltharian physiology couldn't properly resist. 2 minutes after the match started, Drakthos was on the ground, tapping the mat in submission. The arena went silent. Then the crowd exploded with noise, confusion, excitement, disbelief. Webb helped Drakthos to his feet, nodded respectfully, and walked out of the arena. In the medical bay, Dracto sat with ice packs on his arm and throat. Other fighters came to ask him what happened. I don't know, he said honestly. That wasn't normal fighting. He moves wrong, attacks wrong. Nothing he did was in any combat manual I've ever studied. He got lucky, another fighter said. Maybe, Dractos replied, but he didn't sound convinced. Webb's second match was against a Hyprene fighter named Shilva. The Hyprene had reflexes 3 times faster than most species. They could see attacks coming before they fully developed. The match lasted 3 minutes. Webb won by doing something the Hyprene couldn't predict, because it didn't make tactical sense. He deliberately took a hit to his ribs, a painful hit that would bruise badly, just to grab Silva's arm. Once he had the arm, he used one of those strange joint locks. Zalva's fast reflexes didn't matter when her own arm was being used against her body's structure. Submission. Victory. By the third match, other fighters were starting to watch Webb's fights carefully. This wasn't luck anymore. This was something else. His third opponent was a massive Threx warrior, built like a tank with armor plating and incredible strength. The Threx tried to grab Webb in a bear hug that would crush normal opponents. Webb didn't try to escape the grab. He let it happen, then used his thumbs to press into nerve clusters on the Threx's arms, pressure points that made the massive arms go temporarily numb. The Threx dropped him in shock. Webb immediately swept the legs. The giant crashed to the ground like a falling tree. Victory number 3. In the viewing room, other fighters watched the replay in silence. What is he doing? One asked. He's using techniques that aren't in our databases, another replied. He's combining different fighting styles, adapting to each opponent. But he keeps getting hurt, a third fighter observed. Look, he took damage in every match. That's inefficient. Poor form. The female Scar warrior from Registration Day was also watching. Her eyes were sharp, analytical. No, she said quietly. He's not getting hurt because of poor form. Is choosing to get hurt, trading pain for position. He accepts damage to create opportunities. The others looked at her like she was crazy. What species does that? One asked. A species that learned to hunt animals bigger and stronger than themselves, she replied. A species that survived by being willing to suffer. Meanwhile, Colonel Thrasiscon was in his private office, watching recordings of Webb's matches. His tactical advisor, Sekthar, stood beside him. Sir, Sekthar said carefully, the human is more skilled than we anticipated. He is lucky, Thrascon said dismissively. His opponents were weak, made mistakes. When he faces me, this unconventional style will mean nothing. Superior strength and proper technique always win. Sir, he's been watching recordings. He spent all night in the archives. He's studying. Overthinking is the refuge of the weak, Thrascon interrupted. Physical superiority cannot be overcome by mere preparation. Sekthar said nothing more. But privately, he thought that the colonel was making a mistake. That night, Webb sat alone in his room again. His body was covered in bruises. His ribs ached. His shoulder throbbed. He ignored the pain and kept working. On his datapad, he watched every match Colonel Thraskin had ever fought in tournament. Every recorded battle, every training video available in the public database. Webb took notes, lots of notes. He noticed patterns. The colonel always started with the same combination. Always favored his upper right arm for the first strike. Always followed the same tactical progression. Strong, fast, skilled, but predictable. Webb smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. Predictable was good. Predictable meant he had a chance. Webb woke up early the next morning. His entire body hurt. Every muscle ached. The bruises from yesterday's matches had turned dark purple and yellow. He got up anyway. While other fighters rested and recovered, Webb went to the station's main archives. The archives were massive. A library containing information about every species in the Galactic Coalition. Biology, history, combat styles, everything. The archive AI, a floating sphere of blue light, appeared when Webb entered. Welcome, Private Webb, it said in a pleasant voice. How may I assist you? I need everything you have on Vraxian physiology, Webb said. Combat records, biological weaknesses, Nervous system structure. Everything. That is unusual, the AI observed. Most tournament fighters prefer to rest between matches. I'm not most fighters. The AI paused, processing. Very well. Accessing files now. Holographic screens appeared in the air around Webb. Hundreds of them. Thousands. More information than any normal person could read in a week. Webb started reading. He learned that Vraxians were incredible warriors, for good reasons. Their exoskeleton could absorb impacts that would shatter normal bones. Their forearms meant they could attack and defend at the same time. Their distributed nervous system made them fast. Signals didn't have to travel all the way to the brain and back. Local nerve clusters controlled each arm independently. But Webb didn't just read about strengths. He looked for weaknesses. Every biological system had weaknesses. Every armor had gaps. Every advantage came with a cost. He found them. The exoskeleton was strong, but it had articulation points, places where the plates connected to allow movement. Those points were less protected. Softer. The forearms were powerful, but they required incredible coordination. The distributed nervous system made them fast, but it also meant something interesting. If you could feed that nervous system conflicting information from multiple points at once, it would create tiny delays, microseconds. But in a fight, microseconds mattered. Webb took detailed notes. He drew diagrams. He made lists. Then he started watching Colonel Thraziscon's personal combat record. The colonel had been fighting in tournaments for 20 years. He had won 17 championships. He had never been defeated, not once. Webb watched every match, every victory. He watched them multiple times, taking notes each time. Patterns emerged. Thrazicon always started with the same combination. Upper right arm high strike, lower left arm low strike, then a grab with the remaining two arms. Always. Every single match for 20 years started the exact same way. When frustrated, the colonel used an overhead smash with all four arms together. Devastating power, but it left his midsection exposed for half a second. When winning easily, Thrazicon became showboating, adding unnecessary flourishes to impress the crowd. Those flourishes followed predictable rhythms. The colonel was skilled, powerful, experienced, but he was also comfortable. He had won so many times that he had stopped adapting. He used what worked. Why change a winning formula? Webb spent 6 hours in the archives. Then he went to the training room. The training room was empty at this hour. Good. He needed privacy. Webb started practicing something that would seem crazy to any proper military instructor. He practiced falling. He practiced getting hit. He practiced fighting while hurt. He would strike a training dummy, then deliberately put himself off balance. Fall. Hit the ground hard, then get up and continue fighting. Again and again and again. He practiced taking hits on specific parts of his body, places where he could absorb damage without being disabled. He learned exactly how much pain he could endure and still function. Then he practiced something else. He pulled up old Earth military files from his personal database. Files that the Coalition had never seen. Human martial arts. Wrestling. Boxing. Krav Maga. Jiu-Jitsu. Silat. Muay Thai. Combat systems developed over thousands of years by a species that had to fight without natural weapons. Webb studied psychological warfare tactics. Sun Tzu's Art of War. The OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, act. How to get inside an opponent's decision-making process. How to make them react instead of act. He practiced combinations that didn't exist in any coalition manual. Attacks that came from angles that proper combat doctrine said were inefficient, but humans hadn't survived by being proper. They survived by being unpredictable. Hours passed. Webb's body screamed at him to stop. He ignored it. In another part of the station, Colonel Thraziscon was having dinner with other senior officers. They were celebrating his upcoming victory. "The human has made it to the semifinals," one officer said, surprised. "He has some skill. He has luck," Thraziscon corrected. "And he fights like a wild animal. No discipline, no proper form. Against me, such tactics will fail." "He has been studying you, sir," Sektar mentioned quietly. He spent 6 hours in the archives today, looking at your matches. Thrazikin laughed, his faceplates rippling with bright yellow amusement. Let him study. What good is knowledge without the physical ability to use it? He can know every move I will make, and it won't matter. I am simply too strong, too fast, too skilled. His body cannot do what his mind wants. The other officers laughed with him. Only Sektar remained quiet, thoughtful. Later that night, Sektar went to the archives himself. He asked the AI what Webb had been researching. The list was extensive. Vraxian biology, nervous system vulnerabilities, pressure points, psychological warfare, human combat history. But one file caught Sektar's attention. Webb had accessed detailed information about pursuit predation, the hunting style of ancient humans, how they would chase prey for hours, days even, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion, how they would track wounded animals relentlessly, how they won not through superior strength, but through superior endurance, and the absolute refusal to give up. Sektar felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. The human wasn't preparing to fight like a coalition soldier. He was preparing to hunt. The next day, the semifinals took place. Colonel Thraskin's match was scheduled first. His opponent was a champion Hyprene fighter who had won 3 previous tournaments. The match was supposed to be difficult. It lasted 45 seconds. Thraskon was magnificent. Every movement was perfect. Every strike landed exactly where intended. Power, speed, precision. The Hyprene fighter didn't stand a chance. The crowd went absolutely wild. Thraskon stood in the center of the arena, all 4 arms raised in victory. His faceplates glowed brilliant gold, the Vraxian color of triumph. His eye stalks swiveled, scanning the crowd until he found Webb sitting in the fighter section. The colonel pointed all 4 arms at the human. The gesture needed no translation. "You're next." Webb didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't look away. He just sat there, watching, those cold eyes calculating something that no one else could see. That night, Webb returned to his room. He had one final preparation to make. He reviewed everything one last time. Thraskin's patterns, the biological weaknesses, the psychological profile, the exact timing of every technique. Then, he did something unusual. He wrote a message to his commanding officer back on Earth, just in case he didn't survive tomorrow. The message was simple: fought well, learned much, no regrets. Then Webb lay down to sleep. Tomorrow, he would face the undefeated champion. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn what humans were really capable of. The championship arena was packed like never before. Every seat was filled. Aliens from dozens of species crowded together, all wanting to witness this historic match. Holographic cameras floated everywhere, broadcasting the fight across the entire galactic coalition. The betting boards showed the odds. Colonel Thraziskon 5-0. One favorite. Barely anyone had bet on the human. In the preparation room, Webb wrapped his hands carefully. His body was a map of bruises from the previous matches. His ribs were taped. His shoulder was stiff. But his hands were steady. A medic came to check on him. "You don't have to do this," the medic said. "You've already proven yourself by reaching the finals. No one will think less of you if you withdraw." Webb looked at the medic with those cold, calculating eyes. "I didn't come here to prove myself. I came here to win." The medic left, shaking his head. In the opposite preparation room, Colonel Thraskin was surrounded by admirers. Officers congratulated him on his upcoming victory. Attendants polished his exoskeleton until it gleamed like a mirror. He stretched his 4 massive arms, each movement powerful and precise. Today, he announced to everyone present, "I will teach the humans their place in the galaxy. With respect, of course. But they must understand, strength is what matters in the universe. Not cleverness, not determination. Strength." Everyone agreed. How could they not? Thraskon had never lost. The arena announcer's voice boomed across the stadium. "Beings of the Coalition, welcome to the championship match," the crowd roared. In the red corner, 20 years undefeated, 17-time champion. The pride of Rax, Prime Colonel Thraskin. Thraskon entered the arena like a conqueror. Lights flashed off his polished armor, all 4 arms raised high. The crowd's cheering shook the entire station. He moved to his corner, every step radiating confidence and power. And in the blue corner, the surprise of the tournament, fighting for Earth Privet Marcus Webb. Webb walked out to much quieter applause, some polite clapping, a few curious whistles. He looks tiny compared to Thrazicon. In his simple combat gear, without armor or enhancements, he seemed almost fragile. The two fighters met in the center of the arena. The referee, a massive crystalline being, explained the rules. Match continues until submission, unconsciousness, or medical stoppage. Lethal force is prohibited. Do you both understand? Yes, they answered together. Thrazicon looked down at Webb. Even his lowest eyes were above the human's head. His faceplates rippled with that familiar, amused yellow color. I will try to be gentle, little human, the colonel said. This will be a learning experience for you, something to tell your grandchildren about. Webb's expression didn't change. His voice was flat, cold, empty of emotion. Yes, Colonel, it will be a learning experience. Something in the human's tone made Thrazen's faceplates flicker briefly to orange. Uncertainty. But the color passed quickly, just his imagination. Fighters ready, the referee called. They returned to their corners. The arena fell silent. Tens of thousands of aliens held their breath. Bacon. Thrazicon exploded forward with his signature opening combination. 20 years of victories started with this same move. Upper right arm striking high, lower left arm striking low. The other two arms ready to grab and crush whatever was left. It had never failed. But Webb wasn't there. The human had moved before Thrazicon even completed his first strike. Not backward, which would have been the logical defensive move. Forward and to the side, into the attack, at an angle that didn't make tactical sense. Thrazicon's upper right arm missed by inches. His lower left arm hit nothing but air, and suddenly, impossibly, the small human was inside his guard. Too close, in the one place Thrazicon's fighting style didn't account for. Webb's fist struck at an articulation point between armor plates on Thrazicon's side. The impact wasn't powerful, but it didn't need to be. It hit a nerve cluster directly. Pain flashed through that section of Thrazicon's distributed nervous system. The colonel's faceplates flickered orange. Actual uncertainty now. How did the human know exactly where to strike? Thrazin roared and swung with all four arms, trying to catch this annoying pest. But Webb was already moving, already gone, appearing in another unexpected position. Another strike. Another nerve cluster. Another flash of pain. You're off balance, Webb said calmly, almost conversationally. Your weight is too far forward. Thrazicon couldn't believe it. The human was talking during the fight? The colonel tried his second favorite technique, the four-armed grab that had crushed countless opponents. His arms closed around where Webb should have been. Empty air. Too slow, Webb said from behind him. You telegraphed that move. Your upper shoulders tense first. Another strike. This one to the back of Thrazicon's knee joint. The leg buckled slightly. The crowd was dead silent now. This wasn't how the match was supposed to go. Thrazicon spun. Faster now. Angry. He unleashed a combination that should have overwhelmed any opponent. Strike, strike, kick, grab. Textbook perfect. Webb slipped through it like water. He took one hit deliberately on his already injured shoulder, using the impact to spin himself into position for a counterattack. His elbow found another gap in the armor. You always use that combination when you're frustrated, Webb said. His voice was still calm, cold, like he was narrating a training exercise. You've done it in 70% of your matches. Thrazicon's faceplates were cycling through colors rapidly now. Yellow fading, orange growing, a touch of red anger beginning to show. This was wrong. All wrong. The human was supposed to be overwhelmed, crushed, defeated in seconds. Instead, the human was in his head, predicting his moves, talking. Always talking. You're going to try the overhead smash next, Webb said. You always do when standard combinations fail. Thrazicon didn't want to. He tried to do something different, but his body, trained by 20 years of success, did exactly what Webb predicted. All four arms came together overhead for a devastating downward smash. Webb was already moving. The strike hit the arena floor with a boom that echoed through the stadium. Cracks spider-webbed across the reinforced surface. But Webb wasn't there. He was beside Thrashicon, and now he struck with purpose. Not random strikes anymore, a specific combination. Left side nerve cluster, right side articulation point, base of the middle arm. Each strike feeding Thrashcon's distributed nervous system conflicting pain signals from multiple locations simultaneously. The microsecond delays started adding up. Thrashcon's movements became a fraction slower, less coordinated. "You're strong, Colonel," Webb said, and for the first time, there was something in his voice. Not mockery, just cold, hard truth. "Stronger than I'll ever be. Faster. Better armored. By every physical measure, you're superior." The human's eyes locked onto Thrashcon's. "But I don't need to be stronger." Webb moved in again, accepting a glancing blow to his ribs that made him grunt in pain. "I just need to be smarter." Another combination. More nerve strikes, more conflicting signals, and more stubborn. The crowd wasn't silent anymore. They were murmuring, confused, concerned. The undefeated champion was in trouble, and everyone could see it. 5 minutes into the match, Colonel Thrashcon realized something terrifying. He was losing. Not quickly. Not dramatically, but slowly, steadily, inevitably. Like water wearing down stone. Every technique he tried, the human had already prepared for. Every combination he used, Webb predicted. It was like fighting someone who had a copy of his own mind. Thrashcon's breathing was getting heavier. His species was built for explosive power, for short, devastating fights. Humans, Webb was proving, were built for something else entirely. Endurance. Webb's face was covered in sweat. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye. His ribs were clearly causing him pain with every breath, but he didn't slow down. Didn't stop, just kept coming, relentless as a machine. "You're tired," Webb observed, his voice still that same cold monotone. Heart rate elevated. "Breathing irregular. You're built for short fights. This has gone on too long for you." Thrashcon roared in fury and launched a wild attack. Not the disciplined technique of a master warrior, but the desperate assault of someone who was afraid. Webb saw the desperation. Used it. He slipped inside the wild swing and struck the Colonel's midsection, one of the few spots where the exoskeleton had thinner plating for flexibility. Not a powerful strike, but precisely placed. Thrashcon gasped. The air left his lungs. "Your exoskeleton is your strength," Webb said, circling now like a predator. "But it's also your weakness. It's heavy. Every movement costs you energy. I've been making you work, making you waste effort, making you tired." It was true. Thrashcon had thrown hundreds of strikes, used tremendous power in every movement. Meanwhile, Webb had been efficient, economical, only striking when it mattered. The crowd was on its feet now, some cheering, some silent in shock. The betting boards had stopped taking new bets. Thrashcon tried to think. He was a tactical genius, a master strategist. But his mind felt slow, clouded by fatigue and frustration and something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Fear. He attempted his most powerful technique, all four arms grabbing together in a crushing bear hug. If he could just catch the human, just get him in a proper hold, superior strength would end this. Webb saw it coming. Of course he did. Thrashcon had used this exact move in 43 previous matches. But this time, Webb didn't dodge. He let it happen. Thrashcon's four massive arms wrapped around the small human's body. The crowd gasped. This was it. The match was over. No one could escape that grip. The Colonel began to squeeze. He felt the human's ribs creaking under the pressure, heard Webb grunt in pain. Finally, Thrashcon gasped. "Finally, I have." Webb's hands moved, not pushing against the grip, not trying to escape. Instead, his arms came up, close to his own body, fingers positioned precisely. And his thumbs pressed into the exact spot at the base of Thrashcon's skull, the tiny gap where the exoskeleton had its thinnest coverage to allow head movement. Webb had spent 6 hours studying Vraxian anatomy. He knew exactly where to press, exactly how much pressure to apply, exactly what would happen. The nerve cluster there controlled the distributed nervous system. It was the central coordination point. Webb's thumbs found it with surgical precision. Droskon's entire body went rigid. Every nerve in his distributed system fired at once, receiving a signal they weren't designed to handle. His forearms locked up, his legs locked up. His whole body became a statue of paralyzed muscle. The mighty colonel crashed to the arena floor like a falling tree. The crowd went absolutely silent. Webb stood over the fallen Vraxian, breathing hard, blood and sweat dripping down his face. His ribs screamed in agony. His shoulder felt like it was on fire. Every part of his body hurt, but he was standing. And Thraziskan was not. The referee moved closer, checking the colonel. Thraziskan's eyes were open, aware, but his body wouldn't respond. The nerve strike would wear off in a few minutes, but right now, he couldn't move. The referee began the count. 1, 2, 3. Thraziskan tried to move. Nothing. His distributed nervous system was rebooting, but it needed time. 4, 5, 6. The colonel's face plates were cycling through colors rapidly. Yellow, gone. Orange, fading. Now showing deep blue, the Vraxian color of profound shame. 7, 8, 9. In the crowd, the female Scar-Tar warrior was standing, her eyes wide. "I told you," she whispered to her companion. "I told you he was a hunter." 10. The referee raised Webb's arm. Winner, Private Marcus Webb of Earth. For 3 full seconds, nobody made a sound. Then the arena exploded. Half the crowd was cheering wildly. The other half was sitting in stunned silence. The holographic displays were flashing red with UP said victory in a dozen languages. Webb didn't celebrate. He pulled his arm free from the referee and walked over to where Thraziskan lay. The paralysis was starting to fade. The colonel could move his fingers now, his face. Webb knelt down beside him. "You laughed at me because I'm weak," Webb said quietly, so only Thraziskan could hear. "You were right. I am weak. Smaller. Softer. Slower. By every physical measure, I'm inferior." The colonel's faceplates shifted to a color Webb's translator struggled with. Something like respect mixed with confusion. "But my species didn't survive by being the strongest," Webb continued. His voice was gentle now, almost kind. "We survived by being the most stubborn, the most adaptable, the most willing to learn. We survived by learning how to kill things bigger and stronger than us. We've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years." He stood up slowly, his body protesting every movement. "You had every advantage, Colonel. Every single one. But you never considered that. Maybe, just maybe, I'd spent my entire species history learning how to fight opponents exactly like you." Medical teams rushed onto the arena floor. They helped Thraziskan sit up. Full movement was returning to his body now, but the damage to his pride was complete. Webb turned to walk away, then stopped. He looked back at the colonel one last time. "Thank you for the match, sir. You taught me a lot." And then he walked out of the arena, limping slightly, leaving behind a galaxy that would never look at humans the same way again. In his luxury box, Sekthar turned to the other Vaxian officers. They all looked shaken. "Perhaps," Sekthar said carefully, "we should reconsider our assessment of Earth's military capabilities." The other officers said nothing, but they were all thinking the same thing. If one human could do this, what could 1,000,000 humans do? What could 1,000,000,000? The thought was terrifying. The medical bay was quiet. Webb sat on an examination table while a doctor wrapped his ribs. 3 cracked. Multiple deep bruises. Strained shoulder. Minor concussion. Cut above the eye that needed sealing. "You should rest for at least a week," the doctor said, shaking her head. "Possibly 2. How are you even conscious right now?"
"Practice," Webb replied simply. The doctor didn't understand.
She wasn't human. She didn't know that humans had been fighting through pain for their entire evolutionary history. That stubbornness was coded into their DNA. There was a knock at the door. "Enter," Webb said. Colonel Thrazcoin walked in. He was alone. No attendants. No admirers, just the colonel himself, moving slowly, still recovering from the nerve strike. The doctor looked between them nervously. "Should I stay?" "No," Thraziskan said. "This conversation is private." The doctor left quickly. glad to be gone. For a long moment, the two warriors just looked at each other. The giant Vraxian and the small human, the undefeated champion and the soldier who had defeated him. I came to ask how I lost, Thraskin said finally. His faceplates were a dull gray, the Vraxian color of humility. I need to understand. Webb nodded slowly. Sit. This might take a while. Vaskin sat on a reinforced bench. It creaked under his weight. You lost because you believed strength was enough, Webb began. You're stronger than me, faster, better armored. You have 4 arms. I have 2. In every physical way, you're superior. Then how? Because I prepared, Webb interrupted. I studied you, learned your patterns, found your weaknesses. I spent every night researching while you slept. I practiced while you celebrated. I planned for every move you might make. Thraskin's faceplate shifted colors. Understanding was dawning. You treated this as a simple fight, Webb continued. I treated it as a war. In war, the stronger army doesn't always win. The smarter one does. The one willing to suffer more. The one willing to do whatever it takes. Your species thinks this way? Thrashin asked quietly. My species survived this way, Webb corrected. We're not the strongest creatures from our planet, not even close. We were prey animals once. Small, weak, soft. Everything on Earth could kill us. He stood up carefully, his ribs protesting. But we learned. We adapted. We used tools. We studied our enemies. We hunted animals 10 times our size by being patient, by being smart, by refusing to give up even when wounded. That's what makes us human, Colonel. Not strength. Persistence. Thrascon was silent for a long time. His faceplate cycled through several colors, gray, blue, then finally settling on deep purple. The Vraxian color of profound respect. I mocked you, he said. I called you weak, fragile. I laughed. You did, Webb agreed. I apologize. That was unworthy of me. You are a true warrior, perhaps the truest I have ever faced. Webb extended his hand. No apology needed. You gave me a good fight. You taught me things too. Thraskin looked at the offered hand, then reached out with one of his massive arms and shook it carefully. I would like to learn from you, the colonel said. If you would teach me, I want to understand how humans fight, how they think. I have been a warrior for 40 years, but I have been arrogant, complacent. You have shown me that there is still much to learn. Webb smiled slightly. I'd be honored, Colonel. Over the next weeks, the story spread across the Galactic Coalition like wildfire. The human who defeated the undefeated champion. Other species began looking at Earth's military with new interest. What other tricks did humans have? What other unconventional tactics? If one human could do this, what could a trained army of them accomplish? Military academies started requesting human instructors. Combat schools wanted to study human martial arts. Strategists wanted to analyze human warfare throughout history. Colonel Thrasiskan requested an official transfer to Earth. The Vraxian military approved it immediately. They wanted him to learn everything he could about human combat doctrine. When he arrived on Earth, Thraskan was amazed. This planet had produced warriors like Webb, this world of soft creatures and fragile ecosystems. Then he learned about Earth's history. He learned about wars that lasted years, decades, sometimes centuries. He learned about soldiers who fought in conditions that would kill most species. He learned about tactics, guerrilla warfare, asymmetric combat, psychological operations. He learned about Sun Tzu, who wrote about war 2,500 years before humans even reached space. He learned that humans had been perfecting the art of combat when most coalition species were still primitive. Your people are terrifying, Thraskin told Webb one day during training. We're really not, Webb replied. We're just survivors. Back on Keras, 9. Webb had been promoted to instructor. He now taught mixed-species coalition forces about human combat philosophy. His first class had 200 students from 30 different species. They all looked skeptical. Humans didn't look like warriors. Didn't look dangerous. Webb stood at the front of the classroom. Small, unimpressive. Still healing from the tournament "Welcome to Human Combat Philosophy 101, he said. His voice was calm, that same cold monotone that had unnerved Thrazicon. Lesson 1. Winning a fight has nothing to do with being the strongest person in the room. He paused, looking at each student. It has everything to do with being the person still standing when everyone else has given up. A Caltharian in the front row raised his hand. But, instructor, you're smaller than most species, weaker. How can humans expect to win against superior opponents? Webb smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. Let me tell you about Earth, he said. On my planet, we have creatures called bears. They're massive, strong enough to break trees. They have claws like knives and can run 40 miles per hour. The students leaned forward, interested. My ancestors hunted them with pointed sticks and rocks. The classroom went silent. We have creatures called lions, apex predators with inch-long fangs and incredible speed. He walked along the front row. My ancestors hunted them too, with the same pointed sticks and rocks. More silence. We weren't stronger. We weren't faster. We weren't better armed naturally, but we were smarter, more patient, more stubborn. We would wound an animal and track it for days until it died from exhaustion. We would work in teams, use the environment. Never give up. Webb stopped in the center of the room. Every species in this room is stronger than me, has better natural weapons, better armor, better physical abilities. And you know what? I can still beat most of you, because I've spent my entire species' history learning how. From the back of the room, a voice spoke up. It was the female star warrior from the tournament. Instructor Webb, she said, what is the most dangerous thing about humans? Webb thought for a moment. We don't know when to quit, he said finally, and we learn from everything. Every defeat teaches us. Every victory teaches us. We adapt. We evolve. We become what we need to become to survive. He looked around the room. That's what you're going to learn in this class. Not how to be stronger, how to be smarter, how to turn your weaknesses into strengths, how to win fights you shouldn't be able to win. The students sat straighter now, interested, eager. Class begins now, Webb said. First lesson, how to fall down and get back up. Because in a real fight, you're going to get hit. The question is, what do you do next? And so humanity's greatest lesson spread across the galaxy. Strength fades, speed diminishes, armor cracks. But stubbornness, the refusal to quit, the ability to learn and adapt, those were eternal. Those were what made champions. Those were what made humans. The end.